Hello and welcome to the Giraffe Social Media Podcast. It's what social media managers are talking about. I'm your host, Kaitlin McKenzie, and today I'm direct messaging influencer and model Lucy Bennett, or as she is known online, at Lucy Bennett Model. She's a huge advocate for body positivity and mental health awareness, and today I'm going to be picking her brains about her platform, her key content messages, and her work with brands. Hi Lucy, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. So where are you
Good.
joining us from today?
So I am at home in East London at the moment, and I found probably the only quiet part of my house.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and for finding that quiet spot to have a little chat. So we want to talk to you today a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your position as an influencer on social media. How do you feel about that title? Do you vibe with it?
I have my moments with it. I feel like as soon as you say that, people are like, "Oh my God, get over yourself." Um, but in terms of it being like a work title, I kind of I I think the thing is, I feel like with all these sponsored ads and things, when people hear you say you're an influencer, I think they assume that you're just constantly trying to sell them things they don't want. Whereas my
Sure.
kind of take on it is more kind of a promoting of like my insecurities, my like flaws, if you will, just like a
Mhm.
promoting of confidence. That I feel like is such a benefit to younger generations today. Like when we were growing up and didn't have as much social media and things, I feel like there
Sure.
wasn't as much of that positivity out there. So yeah, I kind of prefer to look at it from that standpoint that I'm influencing people to love themselves.
I love that. That's such a great answer. So yeah, kind of like influencing with messaging as opposed to influencing you to buy these vitamins, so to speak.
Exactly. But if
Mm.
anyone does want to give me free vitamins,
We'll drop Lucy's Instagram handle into the
they're
caption.
expensive.
Great. Well, we can touch a bit more on that sort of thing later. So, what do you get up to when you're not influencing online? What's your day job?
So I work as a plus size model. Again, another term I don't really like, but yeah, I'm just a model and I like
Sure.
carbohydrates. So
We
that's
respect
what
that.
I do most days.
Great. So how's that been sort of during coronavirus with lockdown? I'm imagining that kind of slowed down a little.
Yeah, it was very quiet.
Mm.
I mean, fortunately, again, because of social media and kind of people having to be a lot more tech savvy, I did actually do a couple shoots from home, by myself on a tripod, shooting
Wow.
clothes for brands and things. So that was such a blessing. Not even just to have some work in, but to keep some sanity.
Cool.
But yeah, I feel like actually in lockdown, I did make a real effort to treat every day as a work day. So if I wasn't shooting something, or I didn't have technically any work to do, I would kind of create a work day for myself, creating some kind of content, for Instagram or whatever. So yeah, that kind of helped me to keep a bit of routine and structure.
Sounds like a great sort of strategy. And I know I've been stalking your Instagram. Hope that and I've
Stop
seen some of
it.
your some of your great like IGTVs and different like fitness things that you've taken on during lockdown. Do you think that like helped you kind of get through it as well? And like you sort of helped
Yeah.
other people too, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, well, hopefully, but it was kind of, I just thought if I say to myself, I've got to create something interesting to post each day, then it just gives me a way to kind of fill my time. And not only that, but it attracts clients as well. I kind of, I went to my parents for lockdown, so I kind of went through the whole space of the house and I was like taking pictures here, taking videos there to kind of show what I had available to clients.
Oh, sure.
They wanted to give me some work to shoot from home. So it's kind of like hopefully um like a double benefit kind of thing, really.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds that way. So obviously outside of lockdown, have things been picking up a little bit now? Are you sort of back to regular programming?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's regular,
Okay.
but I have been back to work for a couple months now, and things are good actually, a lot better than I thought. Thank goodness. But yeah, it's still weird. It's like you go to work now and you've got to wear a mask everywhere if you're not on
Wow.
set. It's like temperature tests on the door. I mean, it's good because it all kind of makes you feel a lot less anxious about having to be around people all day.
Of
Because I think
course.
that's the thing, like when you're isolating for so long to then go back to that not even social environment but like work environment, it is a bit
Hmm.
like it puts you on edge. um
Definitely.
so yeah, it's like the new normal, I suppose.
Love
it's
that
it's
phrase.
weird, but yeah.
I feel like there's a coronavirus bingo, like new normal. That's definitely one of the squares.
Yeah. Someone
Unprecedented. That's another.
yes. Stay home.
But go out. Oh dear.
Travel, but if you have to travel, travel.
Eat healthy, but also eat at these restaurants. We're getting off topic.
Yeah. And we'll give you £10 off.
Fantastic. So, in terms of your modelling work, it'd be great to know, are there any of your favourite campaigns that you've worked on? I mean, I know from spying your social media, there's a few big names. Hashtag Dyson. Who are some of the campaigns that you've really enjoyed working on?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I did the Dyson Corral straightener ad for John Lewis, which was so exciting. That was for me like such a highlight because I find like with curve or plus size modeling, whatever you want to call it, um, it although it has grown hugely in the last few years, it is very much still kind of in the fashion world. So plus size brands or curved lines of brands and things like that. And that'll be the kind of work you get. So to get work from a beauty brand or a hair brand, and kind of feel as though you're being treated the same as a straight size model, is so exciting. And for me, that was kind of like the dream of getting into modeling, is to do
Mhm.
like beauty or hair work and things like that. So yeah, that was really exciting. I have to admit that was probably one of my favorites.
Amazing. And I saw that you actually last year, did you go on holiday, sort of more in your influencer role? Did you go to Ibiza? Am I right in thinking?
Yes, yes. So I did. I shot a campaign for lemonade dolls in Ibiza last year, which
Awesome.
was so much fun. I've never been to Ibiza before, so this was just like it was amazing. But yeah, it's cool to go out there with a brand as well that really actively wants to showcase diversity, and not even that, but you can tell when a brand is doing it from a standpoint of wanting to be inclusive rather than feeling as though they have to be. Um, so yeah, I really loved that, and the pictures weren't retouched, and yeah, it was just a very empowering trip. And a lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie. I got a great tan.
Well, good. That's definitely got part of it as well. It's interesting point you mentioned there, that sort of duality in terms of like inclusivity with brands. We were talking about on an interview we did with a social media professional called Emily Jenkins recently, and she was saying that as well. It just makes such a difference when you can tell a brand isn't just trying to promote their curve range. They're trying to spread a message. They're trying to reach out to people, yeah, and just be really authentic. It definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like you can feel it as well, and the consumer can as well. So it makes sense to have like a strong message rather than trying to tick a box.
Absolutely. So, staying on social media, this can be as broad or as specific as you like, but what do you love about social media?
Um, I love that it it's kind of paving the way for younger generations to be okay with how they are. I think, I mean, it's a bit of a double-edged sword in that a lot of what you see on Instagram and other social media platforms isn't always reality. But I do feel like there are so many influencers out there that are promoting just their natural, authentic selves completely. And I certainly tried to do that as well. And I think that's so refreshing. And it's something that I didn't see growing up. I remember I once saw a plus size model in a magazine when I was like 15, and I didn't know anything about that kind of world before that. Whereas the social media is so accessible to
Hmm.
everyone. I just think that's a really positive thing. And if I do kind of feel that that outweighs a lot of the negatives. I mean, I do think you've got to take social media with a pinch of salt. You've got to
Absolutely.
give yourself a break from it, and not become too consumed by it. But on the other hand, I do think it does a lot more good as well.
Completely agree. And I think you're probably a shining example of the good you do.
Stop that.
No, but seriously, I know you
Thank
share
you.
a lot of really positive and just honest content about mental health and body positivity. Can you talk a little bit more about like your motivation behind that or any of the work that you've done?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I I kind of found that when I was I hate the word struggle, when I was going through kind of issues with my mental health, with anxiety and depression and things like that, I found myself I had to come away from social media. I didn't feel like I couldn't promote my best self. I couldn't promote constant positivity because it's just not how I was feeling. And I feel like the changing moment was getting over that and just saying, you know what, just share it anyway. If there's one person that looks at that today that's also feeling that way, it provides that kind of comfort, not only for them, but for me as well. Like if I get a
Mm,
message from someone saying that really helped me, like I'm going through the exact same thing, or I feel that way too, it makes me feel better because I think one of the main things with mental health is that you always feel like you're alone. And to see so many other people in the same boat can be really comforting.
yeah.
Um, and I think that's kind of given me a bit more of a push to post as much as I can, no matter how I'm feeling, and kind of just share whatever vibe I'm going with that day, you know?
Yeah, kind of like a 360 content
Yeah,
plan, like
definitely.
every element. Because it's true, isn't it? People look to influencers for advice and inspiration and aspiration, and it can't all be just super positive content. Like I follow plenty of accounts that are just always really inspirational content, but there's some days I flick past that stuff quicker than others, right? But whereas
Yeah,
if there's something that really chimes and you're like, wow, that's so real and honest, or like I learned something from it. Yeah, I think it's super valuable. So I'd like to thank you on behalf of social media for
oh,
sharing.
stop.
Just like no, but I think it's really important content to share, and you don't have to.
Yeah,
You could keep that completely personal, but yeah, you're sharing
yeah.
that with the world, and I think it's commendable. Okay,
Thank you.
you're more than welcome. So when did you start your Instagram page? Was it did it start off personal? Was it purpose built?
No, yeah, it was very much personal. I actually think if you go back to the beginning of my Instagram, some of the stuff's still there. And I remember one of my first posts being literally just a post of my brother's new Christmas jumper.
Instagram has changed so much. I was thinking about this morning.
Right?
Like we would just post pictures of absolutely anything and everything, but
Yeah,
now it's like there's even just from a non-influencer perspective, there's definitely a lot more consideration goes into the grid.
100%. I think I used to post photos of my lunch every day, and I look back and I'm like, it wasn't even a nice lunch. Get over yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And when you look at how much image quality, especially like phone camera quality, has come on, right? You look back at early images and you're just like, oh, how
Yeah.
how we have evolved. So, considering you've been, so how long do you say you've sort of been running your Instagram?
Yeah, so I think I started it when I was like, oh, don't divulge my age. No, kidding. Probably like 8 years, I think. I don't know
Wow.
if that's when it started
Hmm.
or yeah, but I think 8 years. I remember I was about 17, so Yeah.
So at what point did you start to notice brands kind of reaching out to you, either on a gifting basis? I'm just curious about when you maybe popped onto their radar or when you became interested in doing that sort of work.
Yeah, I think it was about 5 years ago, when I was living in Australia for a couple of years. Um, and my social media kind of slowly started to grow. I would say I was still below 5,000 followers though.
Okay.
Um, and it was kind of like that when I got closer to that 5,000, brands started to reach out to send me things, and I was like, this is amazing. I was just like, yes, yes, yes to everything. Um, but then I found it really quickly grew after that, actually. And it was kind of within a couple of weeks, 10,000, a couple of weeks after that, 20, and it started to grow quite rapidly then. And I think that was when I started being a lot more conscious about my content as well. And at the time, I was obviously living in Sydney. I was at the beach a lot. Um, and Australian girls are so hot. So I kind of started to become not conscious, but more aware of myself in a bikini and things like that. And I just started really opening up about that as well. I mean, I was already modeling, but I still
Sure.
find like even with modeling, it's kind of you're on a set, you do your job, you go home. It is a different level of self-awareness being on a beach surrounded by beautiful people. Um, so yeah, I'd say that was when I started to kind of open up about certain insecurities or things that, or positive things as well, things that I'd learnt to overcome just by getting over that hurdle of being in front of other people in a bikini and not caring.
That's really interesting. I mean, I know you said there, like obviously back in the early days, you were like, yes, absolutely to every single brand. Have you become more selective on the brands that you work with over time, or is there sort of like a limit to? Is there a threshold where a brand request becomes maybe not so positive? Like, does it take up too much of your time? I'm just really curious to talk about that because I think it's still quite a grey area, like the world of gifting and hashtag ad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I've kind of just reached a point where obviously I'm still very grateful for anything that comes in. And I would never want to appear otherwise. But I think as well you can take on too much. And not even just in work, in life. I think saying yes to everything can actually end up really messing you up because then you're overbooking yourself, you're stressed out, and there's no need to be. I think it's kind of just managing your time, and I've learned to manage my time in that social media is like an everyday thing, but I need my time off, I need my
Of
weekends,
course.
I need to just switch off sometimes. So I'm very conscious of not saying yes to too much now because with work as well, and shooting and things like that, sometimes it's hard to fit everything in, and it makes me quite anxious if I feel like I'm disappointing a client or a brand. So I would rather just say no or not right now, now's not a good time. Maybe like let me know about your next campaign and things like that. I think you have to become selective if you want to kind of um, be able to stay positive and
Sure.
motivated because sometimes it can just push you the other way and you end up procrastinating and getting nothing done anyway.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's something brands don't consider as much. I mean, of course, there are full time influencers, and we're very happy for them, but you
Mhm.
have like a very demanding job, and you have to create all of that social content in your own time. And especially, I suppose, if those brands are looking for endorsements on a gifting basis, there has to be, I guess, a level of expectation that your time has value still. And I mean, quite a high
Definitely.
value, to be quite honest, in that forum. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting world. So if a brand was to reach out to you, is there like any guidelines you'd like them to follow, or what's like the most ideal way they could reach out to you? I'm just curious if you have any, if there's any brands out there listening who want to work with you.
Hit me up.
I think it's definitely a new forum still for so many brands, like who either aren't even really on social. If they don't know what influencers are, they know they should maybe be working with them, but gosh, how do they begin that? There are lots of different agencies that you can work with. And here at Giraffe, we also have a system we can help clients with that. I'm just curious from your perspective as an influencer, like how should people be getting in touch and what should they say or not say?
So for me, kind of like the easiest way is I've got my email attached to my Instagram. So sending me an email that goes straight to my work email. So I check that all day, every day. Um, so that would kind of be the best way. I do also answer all of my DMs, but I do find that you can't do that all the time. So sometimes things
Sure.
will get left a bit longer if it's DMing rather than emailing. Um, but yeah, for me, it's kind of just like I would like to know more about the brand and why they want to work with me, what they are kind of doing in terms of promoting a message, what is that message? And a lot of brands as well, I think, who'll reach out to me, maybe a clothing brand, for example, and want me to promote their clothing. Um, if kind of maybe a 16 is like their biggest size. If I would fit into their biggest size they have available, it kind of puts me off because I don't feel that that is really being inclusive. Again,
Mhm.
that's I feel like that's where it would kind of fall into brands just ticking a box. It's like, yes, we've got a plus size influencer on board, but you're not actively trying to make everybody feel inclusive. Same with racial representation as well. If you're just showcasing other white blonde girls, then I'm not really interested just because it's you on social media, you have the power to promote a bigger message. And
Of
if
course.
you're not willing to kind of do the bare minimum on that part, um, it's, yeah, I'd say I'm less likely to be excited about getting involved, you know?
Absolutely. And I mean, you make plenty of valid points there. And it's not like there isn't a huge like cornucopia of people out there that they, could be working with. So I think it's really responsible of you. And I feel like it's really nice to see that, to know that that's part of your like selection process, because I think it would be easy for people to assume that, oh yeah, you just do everything. And like, maybe you're just selective on what fits your feed. But I think it's really refreshing to hear that you've got like some real like ethical boundaries and guidelines and how you work on social. So
Yeah,
that's
100%.
great. Yeah. So to talk about content, do you plan your content? Is it quite organic, spur of the moment? I mean, I guess some planning has to go into product focused posts, but yeah, I'm just curious, what's your
Mhm.
process?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real mix, to be honest. If I'm out for a nice dinner with friends and I'm like, oh, this is a cute picture, obviously I'll just do that kind of thing. But in terms of creating content for the week, I do not always on a Monday. It depends how work is kind of fitting in around things, but I would plan out certain posts that I want to do. So I'll be like, okay, this week I want to do an IGTV talking about this topic, or I want to create a reel about this. And it's more of kind of I think about what I want to talk about or what I want to get across, and then I will like plan how I'm going to make a piece of content to fit that. Um, and then it's kind of for me just a case of fitting it in around work because I would say, oh yeah, so Tuesday to Thursday I'll do that, but then 5 p.m. on Wednesday I'll find out I'm shooting Thursday. So it's a bit difficult. I kind of just roll with it a little bit. But if I have a day off, I normally have a list of things in a week that I want to get across on my Instagram.
Brilliant. And just to circle back there, in terms of to talk about brands and content, do you tend to get like requests when you get a request from a brand? do they tend to have like guidelines or aesthetics that they want you to execute? I'm just curious how much they do that and how much you can really deliver that, because obviously you've got your own designed vibe that you're working with. You have your own brand to uphold. So yeah, I'm just wondering if that's ever an issue.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely always has to be a collaboration. Even though you're being paid for something, you want to stick to your own message and aesthetic, I suppose. So hopefully it's kind of a case of working with the brand and discussing how their brand fits into your ethos, I suppose. And to be honest, I've been quite fortunate in that when brands do reach out to me, um, they do kind of talk about why they've reached out to me in terms of what they like about my Instagram and how they feel it fits in with their brand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I wouldn't ever do anything I didn't feel 100% comfortable with, or didn't feel authentic. So I feel like you can promote brands in really fun ways, but still be your authentic self. Um, so yeah, I think it always has to be a collaboration between two people, you know. Um, and if that doesn't work, then it doesn't work, and I wouldn't do it, basically.
I suppose if they wanted to have complete creative control, they could book you to be in a shoot.
Exactly. I am here as a mannequin.
And you mentioned Reels just then, obviously the newly launched Instagram feature. Do you love them? Are you a TikTok girl? What's your real
Yeah,
thoughts?
I feel like I really tried to get on board with TikTok, and I don't know. I did a little bit and I like going on it,
Hmm.
but I didn't get away with it, I suppose. With Reels, I find it's easier because it's kind of all within the Instagram forum, and
Hmm.
Instagram's my main platform. I'd say it's the only platform that I really use on a day-to-day basis.
Hmm.
Um, so it's handy to have it on there. I think they're fun. I think there's I've seen some really cool ways of people promoting serious messages in a fun way.
Yeah,
And also, it's a 15-second video. Who doesn't have time to watch that? So it's a
absolutely.
good
Or 100.
way. Yeah, exactly. So it's a good way of getting things out there in a short, condensed way that's actually going to grab people's attention. So yeah, I'm on board with it. More to
Yeah.
come.
Oh, watch this space. Very exciting. So, what advice would you give to someone who starting out on social would love to build their following and potentially end up influencing in a fashion similar to you do in the future? What advice would you give them?
I would say don't try and be anything that you're not. I think there's nothing more aggravating than someone that comes across as fake, especially on
Sure.
Instagram. There's too much of it.
Hmm.
So I think don't compromise on anything. Make sure that whatever you're posting is in line with your beliefs, the message you want to get across, and have a focus as well. Like my focus starting out was body positivity. In my head, I was like, if I make one girl feel comfortable with her body, then I've done something. Like it doesn't matter how many people you reach. If if you're reaching one person that needs to hear it, then it's worth doing and it's very rewarding as well. So I think that's the main thing. Have that in the back of your head all the time. And then it's just about actively creating content around that, making sure that you're posting regularly, you're interacting with your followers,
Hmm.
getting back to messages, things like that. And just kind of solidifying your presence in that social media arena, I suppose.
That's fab advice. So, I mean, you've been in the social media sphere for quite some time, as we've discussed. Do you feel like it's changing? I know there's been a lot of big social causes that have happened primarily on social media this year. And I just wonder if you feel like, in your experience, Instagram perhaps in particular, like there's a bit of a shift, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely. I think that in terms of big kind of social movements happening, it's it's kind of irresponsible in a way to have a platform and not use it for a positive way. Um, Use it for change kind of thing. Um, but I do think as well, I have seen a lot of a kind of rise in negativity from followers in terms of the influencers they follow not doing enough. And I
Okay.
think it's such a fine line because I try to do as much as I can, and I see a lot of people are as well. But then at the same time, I really do feel for influencers that are full-time influencers, and they have work to do alongside that as well. And I think followers can be quite brutal sometimes in being like,
Mm,
you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And you have to remember it's a real person at the other end of it. It's not just an Instagram page. Um,
absolutely.
so I think you just have to remember that everyone's human and you will make mistakes and you might say the wrong thing or you might not do enough at certain times. But as long as you are actively being a voice for good the majority of the time, then I think that's a really positive thing again to come out of social media, especially this year.
Lovely. Well, I think that's a very nice, positive way to tie up the major questions of this podcast. I've got a few other ones to ask you to get to know you a little better. So,
Mhm.
apart from the Giraffe Social Media podcast, of course, do you have any other podcasts that you listen to that you could recommend to our listeners?
Okay, I don't actually know if I can say this on recording or not.
Oh, I think I know what one it is. Go on, say it. We'll
My
bleep it
dad
out if
wrote
we
a
have to.
porno.
Oh, yeah.
Can you
Um,
say that?
yeah, I think so. God, well,
Okay.
we'll soon find out.
It's on there,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's very well known. I know Robin on our team is obsessed with that one as well. It's
So
such a laugh out
funny.
loud. I've listened to a couple of episodes and I need to, yeah, definitely listen to more. But
Oh my God,
great.
it's so good. It's the kind of one you listen to on the bus and you literally cackle and then you're like, oh no, who saw that?
And how about books? What are you reading at the minute?
I'm actually reading Invisible Women at the moment, a
Ah,
recommendation from a good friend of mine. And it's all about kind of the gender data gap and how kind of feminism is overlooked a little bit, and women in general are overlooked when it comes to data and statistics.
mhm.
So yeah, it's very interesting. I also kind of feel like when I read it in the park, I hold it up and I like sass out all the men around me. I'm like, yeah, I'm a feminist, don't come near.
Oh man, I have actually read Invisible Women, and I can highly recommend that to anybody who just wants to know more about society. I feel like every couple of pages you're like, oh my goodness, this
Literally,
is
it's
happening.
fascinating.
And it's
Right.
happening to 50% of the population, and it's affecting everyone. So yeah, great book recommendation.
Such
So
a
we
good.
also have a little section which I didn't warn you about. So there's a quick fire round. Dun,
Oh
dun,
no, okay.
dun. Again, unfortunately, there are no prizes, but participation is highly rewarded. um,
I'm in.
so you're ready. Okay. Oat milk latte or cold brew coffee?
Oat milk latte.
London or Edinburgh? Well,
Edinburgh.
oh, interesting. Twitter
Beautiful.
or Facebook?
Facebook.
Britney Spears or Christina Aguilera?
Brittany.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Well, very strong move from Lucy Bennett there.
Never felt so passionately about something before.
She's a way to redesign her content focus. It's going to become a dogs. Bottomless brunch or big night out?
Bottomless brunch.
I suppose
Because it
then you
always
don't.
leads to a big night
Yeah,
out.
you don't need to choose. Twitter or a newspaper?
Newspaper.
Banana bread or birthday cake?
Banana bread.
The Kardashians or the Obamas?
Obamas.
Instagram stories or direct messages?
Instagram stories.
And if you could only communicate by one medium, and that was Instagram stories or expressive dance, what would you choose?
Expressive dance every time.
Again, some content we're looking forward to seeing on your platform.
I actually got a message the other day from someone being like, please can you do more IGTVs of you dancing? I'm like, is this a joke? Yes, I will.
Wonderful. Well, we cannot wait to see that. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lucy. This has been so great to chat to you and learn about you and your platform.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's interview with Lucy Bennett. We'll drop her handle in the caption below so you can check out her page if you want to. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future interviews or episodes. And you can also connect with us on all the major socials and let us know what you think of the podcast so far. We'd love to know what you thought. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'd love that even more. We've been Giraffe Social Media. You've been amazing. We'll catch you next time.